So I love movies, all movies. Action, romance, drama, whatever, as long as it's interesting and well made. But despite all my desire for amazing lighting, novel shots, and great characters, at the end of the day, big budget movies need to make money to ensure they keep being made. But to make money, studios need to answer an important question. What kind of films does the general population even want? In other words, what kind of movies make the most money? Well, let's play devil's advocate here and see what some executive at a big studio looking for a movie to greenlight that'll bring in as much money as possible would do. Where better to begin looking for data than at the top 50 highest grossing films of all time, adjusting for inflation. Notice any trends? Well, what first struck me is that the top 10 are all films made before 1998. This is probably for a number of reasons, notably inflation. Titanic grossed more than 3 times Gone with the Wind, but the buying power of the dollar went down over 11 times during the same period. But obviously, you can't release your film in the past, so that's out the window. But a really important thing to note is that at first glance, most of these films seem to be family films. So let's investigate this hunch. This graph shows us the MPAA age rating for each of the films. Notice that we only have 3 rated R films, while films rated G or PG account for 66%. So from this, we can conclude that for a financially successful film, we need a film that is watchable by children and families. Looking at historically successful films, however, doesn't give us all the answers we need. It's very clear that the movie industry and social landscape has changed, and so releasing a film like Gone with the Wind might not be the best idea. So let's trim down our window to only include films from 2010 and onward. Again, the trend that family movies tend to be the most profitable continues, as PG-13 and PG make up over 90% of all the films, but interestingly, G movies make up only 3%, half the number of rated R films. Now this could reflect a general trend towards more mature film, but that's just speculation. When taking a closer look at the top 50 of these films, some interesting trends become clear. First is the fact that when looking at the gross profit by country, the US makes on average about 35%, miles above the average of the second highest, China at 9%. So this means that your target market needs to be the United States, and other cultures come second. What this also tells us is that since at least 22% comes from non-Western countries, making your film easily translatable to other cultures is also important. An example of this being incredibly important is the fact that both The Hunger Games and The Hunger Games Catching Fire grossed more domestically than Frozen, indicating that it appealed more to US audiences. However, the international market made sure that both Hunger Games films are not even on our list. Why? Well, of these 3 films, it is clear that Frozen is the most easily translatable, since Disney has spent huge amounts of money and time breaking into other markets all over the world. Lastly, when looking at the actual films themselves, a very important thing to note is the overabundance of sequels. All but Frozen and Alice in Wonderland are sequels, and although Alice in Wonderland is not a sequel, it is based on a story so old it has permeated throughout most of the world. But most of these aren't just sequels, they're directly based on series or franchises from 1993 and earlier. While this certainly has to do with the fact that creators of art are always influenced by the works that came before, the fact that all of these films are using the likenesses and names of past series suggests that something else is going on. Despite common knowledge that people like original ideas, it seems that from a purely financial standpoint, that's just not true. That's right, sequels and unoriginal ideas sell. But an area where this seems to be the least applicable is animation, as while Finding Dory, Toy Story 3, and Minions are continuations of a previously established series, they are all from relatively new series, at least when compared to the other films on the list. The only film that seems to defy this rule is Frozen. But while it is indeed an original story,
Yes, it takes influence from fairy tales, but it is at least, arguably, the least directly influenced by previous works.
the fact that it is a Disney princess film can be argued as falling under the being based on previous works category. So all in all, we just proved two things. First, a successful movie needs to appeal to as many people as possible. Second, people like what they've already seen. So ignoring the fact that we just prove what any person paying the slightest bit of attention to films could tell you, while I always saw this as a powerful trend in Hollywood, to see it backed up with such compelling data stretching over a decade makes the point seem less like some idiot producer at some big studio who doesn't know his Spielbergs from his Scorseses, and more like an unfortunate truth about the average moviegoer. It's rather depressing, isn't it? Looking at the numbers and realizing that the studios are right. All we want is the same schlock, year in and year out. Is there really no space for films that push the envelope, for films that shake things up and show us something that we've never seen? Well, you know what? Sure, all of these big budget blockbusters being pumped out with machine-like regularity might seem like the cold and heartless workings of a soulless robot, but making so much money allows these studios to have the liberty to take risks without gambling the future of an entire company. And while the results might not always be fruitful, it can lead to some great movies. Heck, even movies that don't take huge risks but are extremely well made come out of this process. Thank you so much for watching. As always, here's some videos that might titillate your palate if you like this one. Also, check out my last video where we calculated how many different items there are at Chipotle. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.